Start. Are we recording? That's a good question. We are recording. All right, there we go. Come on in, everybody. I can see them filtering in here. If we get that pop up about letting in otters, we don't let in any AI. All right, everybody, come on in. I want to introduce our guest. I can see you guys popping in here. We're going to take a couple of seconds just to let everybody get on before I introduce Mike. We only get Mike for an hour. He's very busy. He's flown in just to do this for us today. There we go.
A virtual fly-in.
Yeah, a virtual fly-in. All right, everybody. Great to see all of you. Thank you so much. We're running this like a traditional webinar, right? Normally we run meetings, we do role play, but in this case, Mike has such an amazing buyer process that he's really dialed in and is amazingly productive. And he's been generous enough. I had to trade my time for Mike in order to get Mike to come here and talk to us and tell us how he runs his over $40 million buyer side business right now. So for those of you who don't know who we're talking to today, this is Mike Novak. He and his wife, Rachael, run a real estate team out of Everett, Washington, and their team consistently does over $100 million a year in sales. And now they're the #1 sales team in their county. So Mike, one of the great things about Mike is he's actually selling real estate, right? He's not. Now, I don't want to trash people who aren't selling real estate because I haven't been in a transaction since 2013. But, Mike is out there every single day, right? He's swinging the hammer. He knows how this works and he's applying his methodologies and his strategies. And so, rather than me trying to make up training around how to convert buyers these days, I thought it made more sense to bring in Mike and let him show you how he and his team are doing it currently. Mike does over $40 million a year in buyer business. And so he's got an amazing process dialed in. I met him when we were speaking at the same event this year and invited Mike to come here and talk to all of you. So Mike, thank you so much for being here today. And we're going to just get into the content, everybody. We're going to hold the last 10 minutes. I want you to write down your questions and then you're going to put them into the Q&A. Okay. So we'll have Q&A 10 minutes at the end. We're going to let Mike just roll. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, awesome to be here. Thanks for the amazing introduction. It was great to meet you in Austin. You and I have followed each other for years. And so that was the first time I actually got in the same room at the same time and immediately just like a friendship. So really, really grateful for that and excited to be here with your people and talking about how to build a big buyer business. So I'm going to share my screen. We got a ton of content to get through today. I'm just going to jump right into it because we don't have time to mess around, guys.
Everybody chat in. Thank you, Mike. And we're going to let Mike roll. He's just going to take it away. I'm going to mute myself because otherwise I'll keep talking. But
all good. Feel free to interrupt me. You got permission to interrupt me if you want to, Dale. So no worries.
Got it. Go for it.
All right, awesome. So my name is Mike Novak, like Dale said. My wife and I run the Novak real estate team just north of Seattle in a place called Everett, Washington. I got my real estate license in January of 2017. And when I got into the industry, I was like really caught off guard by the fact that it seemed like on the listing side of things, everyone was super organized. On the agent side of things, they had a very formal process. They'd go out and meet people at their house for listing appointments. They would go through their selling guide, their listing presentation. Some of them even were like scripted verbatim on what they were saying to people. And they were then, articulating their value proposition, talking about compensation, and then signing ultimately an agreement to represent that seller. That made a ton of sense to me on the list side. But what really shocked me is on the buy side, it seemed like, coming from an outsider from real estate, just seemed like there was no real process to how to work with buyers. Most agents' process was they get a call from a buyer and they just go show that buyer a house. And now they're the de facto agent for this person. And I just didn't really understand that. Like, why do we not treat buyers the same way that we treat sellers? Like, why don't we take the time to really bring a lot of value to these people, articulate what the process is going to be by house, what we're going to do to help them during that process, how we get paid, and then ultimately sign an agreement to work together. And so that's what really caught me off guard. And that's what made me think, okay, we need to probably go back to the drawing board here. For our team, and we need to figure out what is our defined process going to be on the buy side. And we ended up pulling a lot of the stuff from the listing side and applying it to our buyer business. So my wife, Rachael, she decided to get just straight into listings. So we kind of split up our business right on year one. We just decided, hey, if we're going to do a lot of business, we're going to have to really split this up and divide and conquer. You're going to focus on listings. I'll focus on buyers. I didn't care either way. I said, Rach, what do you want to do? She said, I want listings. I said, cool, I'll work with buyers. And I'm like a 99D on the disc side of things. So you can work with buyers even if you're very aggressive and a super high D, trust me. You're not just a listing agent by default. So what that allowed me to do though is like really jump into the granular process of how we're going to work with buyers and figure out how to represent them in a way that makes sense, that helps them, serves them at a super high level, and also establishes as the professional. Okay, so these are some of the myths that I was told when I got into real estate, and you may have been told some of these things as well. Crap like list to last, like, gosh, if you're gonna make it in this industry for a long time, you got to just be all about listings, right? Like that's what I was told. I also was told that top producers only list houses. Like if you're a top producer, you are far too good to work with buyers, and so you're just going to hand those off to other people and you're not going to represent them. You're too good for it, right? That was something I was told as well. And then the last one was that new agents are the only people that should really work with buyers. Like once you've got some established history, you've been doing this for a while, you got some experience, you no longer want to work with buyers. You're just going to be solely focused on listings. And while there's slivers of truth to each of these statements, these are not the full story, okay? The full story is actually that you can build a massive business off of working with buyers. Should you work just with buyers? Probably not. You don't have to divide it up just the way that I did, but it can become a big pillar of your business where maybe it's half buyers, half sellers. And what I'm going to share with you today is going to be the exact framework that I've used to scale the buyer side of our business. Like Dale said, I have personally been in the trenches and done this. I'm not just some internet influencer. I'm not just some online coach. Nothing against coaches, Dale. But I'm like actually doing this stuff day to day, shoulder to shoulder with my agents. I'm still in production. I still do buyer consultations. I still do listing appointments. I still even set some of my own appointments on the phone. So this is exactly what we do and how we do it. Okay. This is not theory. This is exactly what we've done. And this is what allowed us to scale the buyer business massively. Getting to $40 million in buyer business requires a lot of process and really defining how you're going to spend your time as an agent with buyers. Because the reality is buyers can take a lot of time, and you have to systematize and figure out process and how to scale your time and build leverage around you, which we're going to talk about later today, so that you can actually take that and massively multiply it. The first part that I want to cover is like, how do you set a buyer consultation? Because like I said, most agents, their process is simply, okay, I'm going to go open the door for a person, and now I'm going to somehow become their agent. They don't have the skills to set a consultation unless they're being coached by someone great like Dale. They're not learning those skills. Okay, like they don't know what to do to pivot that home inquiry into a consultation. So there's a skill gap we have to address that we have to fill in here. I put up the 3 things on the slide that I want to make sure I understand before we set a consultation. The first thing is the motivation. Like, why is this person wanting to buy a home? What is important to them about buying this house? I have to understand that at a super deep level. The second thing is the personal connection. I know that buying a house and selling a home really revolves around life events: divorce, death, upsizing, downsizing, having kids, kids moving out. There's like all these life events that happen around real estate. And I want to understand what the life event is that's causing this person to want to buy a house. Sometimes it's just that they're tired of renting a home, and that's totally cool. But I want to make sure that I've totally flushed that out. That's going to allow me to really connect them at a much, much deeper level. And then the last part is, are they really truly qualified to meet with me? And the best way to know if they're qualified is to draw relevancy to what their current living situation is to actually buying a house in your market. And so when I say that, like, okay, how much are they paying a month in rent? If they're paying $2,000 a month in rent in my market, that's a big problem, because I know that in my market, even with a down payment, you're looking about $4,500 a month for a mortgage. So that really like would concern me in that situation. So I want to make sure I understand, are they actually qualified? Do they have any red flags? We've got a list of about 15 or 20 red flags that we kind of go through on these calls with people, but payment relevancy, if they're renting, is the single most important thing to decide if they're qualified or not. If they're only paying the $2,000, that's totally cool. I got to ask way better follow-up questions. I got to ask and say, hey, Dale, totally understand you're paying $2,000 a month for rent right now. That's an amazing, amazing deal. To be totally honest with you, to buy a home in our market, your payment's going to be probably more like $4,500. Is that a payment you would be comfortable with that you think you could make? Right? Just ask that question. Don't just brush them off. Don't just discount them, but ask that question. Okay. I don't wait to meet with buyers until they're pre-approved. If you do that, you're going to miss out on a ton of opportunities. So the better thing to do is to get really good at asking really great questions. And you got to be careful how you do this. I mean, Dale's a fantastic lead conversion coach, and I'm sure that he's gone over this with you guys. Like, you can't just ask people like, hey, Dale, what's your credit score, like a minute into the phone call. You're going to face a world of rejection and pushback on that. They don't trust you yet. You got to earn that trust and the right to ask those kind of questions. And so once you've covered the first 2, the motivation, that personal connection, then you can start to ask those more personal questions. And so when I ask them, Dale, do you own a home or are you renting right now? And he says, I'm renting a home. Okay, awesome. Dale, tell me about how much per month you're paying in rent. Like, I'm earning the right to ask these more personal questions, right? And down the line, that I can start asking things like credit score, money saved, what they do for a living, all of those types of things. Okay. So that's part of the process about actually setting an appointment and how to really go from a home tour to like a home tour request to an actual consultation. I like to use this script and this language pattern to kind of force a why in the road of the conversation. And I'll say something like, typically once I'm in rapport with this person, we've had a good 5, 6, 7 minute long call. I'll typically say something like, okay, Dale, it really sounds like, you're interested in buying a home in the future. I just want to know, Dale, if the ideal home came on the market in the next 30 days, would you want to go take a look at that home or would you pass up on that opportunity? And that really forces them to think, like, would I go look at that house or not? I don't know. And if you think about the reverse way to ask this question, which is what most agents do, they ask them, they say, Dale, when do you want to buy a house? When do you want to make a move? Well, that's an overwhelming question to ask somebody. I don't know when I want to make a move, when I find the right house and when everything comes together, right? So just ask a very simple question that they can easily understand. They don't have to overthink. Just would they simply go look at the house or not? If they say no, I wouldn't. Try to understand why and flush that out a little bit more. Maybe that person becomes a nurturer. Maybe they're not ready for an appointment. But they say, yes, Mike, I would 100% go look at that. Boom, we got you. Okay, awesome. Dale, the next step, knowing that you would want to go look at that house, that you would not pass up on that opportunity, would be to meet in my office for 20 to 30 minutes so I can sit down with you, walk you through the home buying process from start to finish, get you up to speed on the market, and identify exactly what we're looking for in your next home. House today at 4 or house tomorrow at 6. We call it the A or the B close. I'm sure you guys have heard of this before. I'm not asking passively, Dale, is that something you'd want to do maybe? Or how does that sound? Or would you find value in that? I'm just telling you, like, hey, this is the next step. Option A or option B, which one do you want? Right? It's going to get a much better reaction when you do that. And every now and then you'll get somebody that pushes back and says, I can't do either one of those times. Then what time can you? Right? So this is a much better.
Let me throw a question in, Mike. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
what are your thoughts about, so you said in office, what are your thoughts about video, like Zoom?
I personally hate Zoom. My instructions to my personal ISA are that if they are in my market, they're coming to my office. I will do a Zoom call. If you live in Florida, if you live in Texas, like you're out of state. But if you're not motivated enough to come to my office, I highly doubt you're motivated to buy a house. You know what I mean? So to me, it's almost like a hoop to jump through to show me that you actually are motivated to do this. There's other agents that love Zoom, and that's awesome. Like if you can sign buyers off Zoom, I think that's great. What I've seen is it's just harder to build that connection. Like there's little subtle cues that come in when you're face to face, belly to belly with somebody at a table that you pick up that you just can't on Zoom, right? It's also really hard to sign somebody right off of Zoom. At the end, I'm going to share with you guys like my framework to sign your buyers. If you get off of a Zoom call, you're just like, okay, the next step is to work together. I'm going to send you, an electronic signing to make me your agent. Well, a lot of people just brush that off. But if they're face to face with you and they're signing in person, it's a lot harder to brush that off. So I always want them on my turf in my office if I possibly can. Second to that, if we can't do that for some reason, and this person's like adamant about going to see a house, I will choose the nearest Starbucks to that house. We're meeting at Starbucks first. We're doing this over coffee. We're signing you still. Then we're showing you the house. We're not showing you the house and then coming back for the consultation, because the consultation will never happen if you do it that way. Does that answer
I love
the question, Joe?
Yeah, it does. I love it. Now, question for you. I'm in a big metro market, right? So
Yep.
literally, like I live just outside Philadelphia. It can take anywhere from 35 minutes to an hour for me to get to Center City, Philly. In that instance, would you, meaning that people may have to drive quite a distance, would you still require them to come to the office? Or could I say it's either in my office, and if they reject me, I'll do something closer to where they are? Is that possible?
Yeah,
What do you think of that?
I would try to meet them in the middle somewhere, like I said, like a coffee shop or something like that. I mean, if the only thing they will agree to is Zoom, then you got to make that judgment call. To me, that's a question into like, how busy are you? How bad do you want this business? For me, like I don't need that business. Like I've got my process. And if you can't follow my process, you're really not my ideal client. and there's probably some that are off to help. You know what I mean? So it totally depends though. Like I've got friends in Boston where the traffic I've heard is just a freaking nightmare. And
Yeah.
they've like learned to master Zoom, like, and they sign people off Zoom too, you know. They
Okay.
literally sit there on Zoom, they send them the signing right there, they wait and help the person pull it up and like sign it together, you know. So
Wow, I
you can
like that.
totally do it that way. I don't live in that like downtown Seattle environment. And you know, like I can get people to my office typically within 20 minutes in
Okay.
any direction. And so it logistically just works. But that
Okay.
doesn't mean it's going to work in every market for sure.
No, I think that helps because I know we have people from all over the US and even some Canadians have slid in here. And so, I love my Canadians, by the way. That was just a side joke. Um, so I know that people have different scenarios and I just wanted to bounce that off you. I'm writing down some other questions for you too, Mike, but I'll hold those back. So I'm going to let you go again.
Okay.
I'm going to mute myself.
You're all good, my friend. After you set the appointment, what I like to do is I like to bring them some value right away. There's a couple of things the first thing I do is we use Calendly for booking appointments. And as part of the Calendly automations, once that buyer consultation is booked, they automatically get an email right away. And that email has a link to watch a video about the overview of buying a home, just the 4 phases of buying a house that I've broken down. It's like a 3-minute long video, brings them a lot of instant value. And then about 2 hours later, there's another video they get on email that just tells them why they should work with the Novak team. Like, what's our track record? What do we do to help you? And who are we? Like, just get to know us better. And the reason I like to send video is because you kind of earn that trust when they've watched your videos before they even walk into your office. And you're going to build some authority and just some value before they even get there. When you do that, people's sales defenses go down quite a bit. And they walk into your conference room or wherever you're meeting them and they just feel like they already kind of know you. So that's like kind of like the next level. This is build a process where you're sending a couple of videos after you book that consultation. I also recommend fully adjusting the search for them, making sure that you tell them you're going to send them a link to your mobile app if you've got one. You're going to fully set them up on a customized search. You're going to send them over some more listings. Tell them that they can go look at those listings, that weekend after the consultation. Like really just pour some value into them before they even meet with you. If you're meeting with them like 5 to 7 days out, I would not go that 5 to 7 days with just radio silence. I would reach out to them every other day or so and just bring them some value. Like, hey, here's a few more houses to look at, Dale, that have that 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-story layout you're looking for. Just want to make sure you saw those. Like, just start showing them some value and stay in touch with them. When you do that, your show rate is going to go through the roof. I like to see kind of a set to met ratio north of 80%. And there's a lot of nuances that go into that number, your skills, of course, and then what kind of value can you bring to the person to make them really want to show up for that appointment. So that's how to set the consultation. What's the overview of the consultation? This is kind of how I do it. The first 5 to 10 minutes is really just building a personal connection. It's just chatting, like as two humans, not a salesperson, just like, hey, Dale, awesome to meet you face to face. I'm going to reaffirm everything I know about what he told me on the phone. It really sounds like you guys are wanting to make a move in the next 3 to 4 months. It sounds like you're kind of outgrowing your apartment. Like you're just showing them that you're a listener. You heard what they told you and affirming it back face to face in that meeting. And then just connect with them. Like it doesn't even have to be about the house. It could just be like finding commonalities. Like I did one on Saturday this last week, and this lady was a veterinarian and she had this big love for golden retrievers. And I have a golden retriever. So we talked about golden retrievers for like 5 minutes. And that just kind of makes that connection a little bit more authentic and real when you're not just talking about real estate or not just selling them on something. So make that connection. A lot of agents, they make the mistake. They just go like straight into sales and presentation mode. I don't recommend doing that. I'd really recommend just having a human-to-human conversation for the first 5 to 10 minutes and then go into presentation mode. That's that 20 minutes you see in the middle there on the slide. That's where you really go through the buyer's guide. I'm going to share with you a couple of pages from ours today. I will send Dale my full buyer's guide so you guys can get it from him if you want it. And you can rip off and duplicate as much of that as you possibly want. We've kind of enhanced it and changed it and optimized it over the last 7 years, just as our business has kind of changed, the market has changed too. And then the last 5 minutes is just signing that person, signing that agreement to actually represent them. In my market, like honestly, nobody else signed buyers. We've been signing buyers for 7 years, and now everyone is being forced to do it because of the NAR changes. So this is something you got to get really comfortable doing. You got to be very comfortable articulating your value proposition, what you're going to do, how you get paid, and then actually ask them to sign the agreement, guys. So let's jump into the buyer's guide. I'm going to share with you just how I would with a buyer. This is like the meat and potatoes of my buyer's guide. My buyer's guide is about 27 pages long, but there's only about 4 or 5 key pages I go over with them because it's just information overwhelm if you go beyond that. But this is the single most important page. And I'll just tell them, I'll say, hey, Dale, this is kind of the high level view of buying a home. I break the process down into a 4-phase approach. The first phase is what I call the preparation phase. That's what we're really doing today. The second phase is the home search phase. We're out actively looking for homes. The third phase is the offering phase. We're putting offers in on properties. And the fourth and final phase is what I call contract to close. That's basically what happens when you get your offer accepted to get keys and possession of the home. Okay, so jumping into phase one, like it says, first step, just to meet face to face. You get to know you better, Dale. Make sure I understand what your goals are, and I'm going to be a good fit to represent you and be your real estate agent. From there, I just want to give you kind of a lay of the land on what to expect with buying a home and show you what that journey is going to look like. Buying a home is a really big financial decision, and it can be very stressful. So the difference in between a good and a bad home buying experience really comes down to your planning and preparation. Dale, as your agent, I'm using embedded commands now, as your agent, it's really important that I fully prepared you to actually go through this buying period. That's a big part of my job. Okay. The next step, to identify the must-haves and the locations. So I will usually frame like kind of the map for somebody. I'll say, okay, what's the furthest north we're going? And we'll name that city. What's the furthest south we're going? And we'll name that city, then east and west. So I like know exactly what this geographical footprint is of where they want to live. I oftentimes will have to challenge people's thinking about where they're going to live based off of price. Like in my market, the closer you get to Seattle, the more expensive it gets. A lot of people want to live close to Seattle, but they can't afford that payment. So we have that conversation. The further away you get from Seattle, the more house you're going to get for the money. We just have a very candid conversation about that. The must-haves are the non-negotiable features you have to have in the home, or if the home does not have that feature, you would not be interested in it. So for most people, they have 3 to 5 must-haves that really matter to them. They're totally unique to them. It could be bedroom count, it could be square footage, it could be the lot size, it could be privacy. Like it's totally unique to them. So you got to have that conversation. And oftentimes people haven't really thought about this yet. It's like you're starting to get the wheels turning in their head. And if they're a married couple, maybe they haven't even had this conversation yet as a couple, right? So now they're sitting there staring at each other saying, what's important to you, right? And now we're just sitting there having this very candid conversation and starting to really discuss what we truly need in this house. That's where you become a facilitator that is very helpful to the buyers. Okay. So we're going to get clarity on the must-haves. We're also going to get clarity on what we call the nice-to-haves, the additional features where if the home had that feature, you would consider it kind of a bonus, but it's not like a deal breaker. An example of that could be like a fenced backyard. If the home doesn't have a fenced backyard, but it's the right location, it's the right price, the right floor plan, you'd probably still buy that house because you can go fence the backyard later, right? So like you just kind of bring some context to items like that. Or maybe it's like the carpet's not perfect or the countertops are ugly. Like make sure they understand like these are probably not deal breakers if it's the right location and it's the right price and the right floor plan. Okay. The things you can't change. The next step is to sign the buyer agency agreement and the professional services agreement. That's an agreement between you and I that allows me to be your real estate agent, show you houses, write offers for you, and give you real estate advice. The last step is to get pre-approved for your mortgage. I will connect you with a great local mortgage lender that's helped many of our clients. And they can help you get pre-approved so you know exactly how much your payment's going to be at different purchase prices. That'll really help us hone in the search. Do you have any? Yes.
Do you have any? Sorry, I cut you off. Finish your sentence and then I'll jump in with a question.
Do you have any questions about phase one before we move to phase two? You have to like stop and ask that question because if you're going to get any pushback to signing the agreement, it's going to be right here. And that's awesome. Like we want to have that super like friction conversation. We want to embrace that and jump right in. Why do I got to sign the agreement? Well, let's talk about that, right? Can I work with multiple agents? Let's talk about that too. You know, like, will you give me back some commission? Let's talk about that also. Like, just be willing to have those super candid conversations really early on. But 98% of the time, they're going to tell you, no, that'll make sense. And they're just going to move right to the next phase. As agents, we like stress about the signing part of it, but notice I'm naming it super early on the process, right? That's really important, not just like springing this on them at the end of the meeting. I'm telling them what to expect. Very important. Go ahead, Bill.
Good. All right. So I'm going to interject a question here. I didn't hear much about how you get compensated. So before NAR settlement and all that other shit, how did you address the concept of you getting compensated when you're talking about the buyer agency agreement?
Yeah, so I have a slide I'll share with you. It's I think it's the next one or the one after that. And
do you
it talks about,
do you already go over this in your presentation and I'm jumping the
gun?
Yeah,
I do. I break down, like I consider commissions closing costs, and so I break down closing costs for people. So let
me take my seat again and turn it back over to you.
Again.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to shut up. It's back to you.
All right. No worries, my man. All right. So phase two, the home search phase, what we're going to do, we're going to go proactively on the search for new listings for you. We're not going to just sit back and wait for you to send us new listings you want to go see. So we will set you up in our own mobile app that we own, that we've created just for our clients. It's going to send you every new listing in the market that matches your criteria within 10 or 15 minutes of it coming on the market. It's not just our team or our brokerage's listings. It's every listing in one place in the entire marketplace. Okay, so I'm going to set that up for you. It's just for our clients, and you'll get access to that. From there, we want to get out and go tour homes with you. So a big part of buying a house is obviously touring a house. And if a home comes on and you're even remotely interested in looking at that house, make sure you message me right away. I have a full-time showing partner. Her name is Anna. Usually Anna's in these consultations with me side by side. And one of us is available 7 days a week for you to go look at homes because there's two of us, right? Like we work on opposite schedules. So from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week, one of us have got you covered to go see that home. People love this. Like we're going to talk about the showing partner towards the end of today if we have time. But this is like amazing to people. Like, boom, I can see a house on demand, right? Like that's what they want. They want to be able to see the new listings really quickly when they come on. If it's in your app, that's really badass. And they want to be able to go see the home as fast as possible and not have to wait for the agent. You're going to solve both those problems for them. From there, Mr. Buyer, I want you to fall in love with the home you're going to buy. Buying a home, like I've said multiple times already, is a really big financial decision. And so I want to make sure it's going to be the right house for you. If I go to the home with you and I show it to you and you don't feel in your gut and your heart like this is the right home, I don't want you offering on that house. I want you to be convinced it's the right one. If it's not the right one, we just keep looking until you're convinced it is. When you say this, guys, like all of a sudden their defenses just go way down because every buyer is scared shitless that you just want a commission, right? That you're going to just try to push them into a house that they don't really want. And when you put your needs second and you tell them that this is all about you, this is all about making sure we get it right for you, I want you to love that house. You're going to earn their trust. It's a super important part of this process. Okay. So again, any questions on phase 2 before we move on to phase 3? No, we're good. Okay, great. Phase 3 is the offering phase. When we find a home that you love, I will be the person that writes the offer for you. I'm going to give you very specific offer guidance on what I think you should offer and why. Some of the things I'm going to look at are comparable sales, similar or homes that are similar size, age, condition that are close in proximity to the home that you like. I'll show you how much they were listed for and how much they sold for. Another big variable I look at is what's called days on market. How long has the home been listed for? And that really matters, Mr. Buyer, because I know the psychology of a seller is very different. The first week or two they're on the market versus 3 or 4 weeks later. Like if the seller is just sitting there with the home on the market a month after it's been, come on, that's a different mindset they've got than just a day or two jumping on the market. Like they're always going to want to wait initially and see if someone's going to give them that price. But after 3, 4 weeks of sitting on the market, that's when that window to negotiate really starts to open up for you. So at that point, I will negotiate back and forth the listing agent who represents the seller. I will be representing you as the buyer. If we get an agreement on price, terms, and conditions, that's called mutual acceptance in real estate. At that point, nobody else can buy the home as long as you close on it. So this is a really important thing, guys, to explain, because if you don't frame this, you're going to get really stupid questions when you go show them the house they want to offer on. They're going to say like, well, I want to offer 25 grand off this house. Well, okay, how did we come up with that number, right? Like this isn't eBay. Like, how did you come up with just this rounded number? Like you're just shooting from the hip, you're just guessing, right? But as the professional, I've set the expectation. That's not how we do this, right? We have a data-based approach on how to determine what to offer on this house. We're not guessing. We're not shooting from the hip. Very, very important, okay? Because you've put all the work in at this point, guys, to get them to actually put an offer in. You want to get that offer accepted, right? So all about framing expectations on price and framing them very early on in the process. That brings us to phase 4, contract to close. Once we get your offer accepted, we'll help you coordinate your earnest money. Earnest money is like a deposit when you're buying a house. In our market, I recommend 1 to 3% for earnest money. The higher the earnest money, the stronger the offer. Every dollar you put in for earnest money is a dollar less you bring to the closing table. So it's one way to strengthen up your offer that doesn't cost you anything extra. You want to have quick access to those funds, Mr. Buyer, typically about 2 days to get those deposited to the escrow company once you're under contract. So make sure it's not in like stocks or 401k or anything like that. At that point, we'll help you coordinate the home inspection. I highly recommend getting a home inspected. I'm not worried about nitpicky little cosmetic things. I'm really worried about major mechanical and structural issues that could come up, things that we can't see when we go through the house that the homeowner might not even know about. So this is important to explain to you guys, because if you don't frame this, you're going to get the inspection back and they're going to ask for 50 things to get fixed. No. We talked about this, right? This is a seller's market. Sellers have the leverage. They've got more buyers, that are interested in this house. You can't go nitpick this thing, right? Like we're just going to focus on the major issues, like things that would cost a certain dollar threshold to fix. Okay, those are the things we're focused on. And again, if I haven't done a good job of framing that expectation, this is going to come up as a problem once you go under contract. And I don't like problems. At that point, the appraisal is going to occur. That's just a third-party evaluation of the home. Make sure it's worth what you're paying for it. That's done by your bank. And then we like to go back and do what we call a final walkthrough, a day or two before the closing date. Just like to make sure that everything looks good before any money changes hands, make sure the appliances are still there, the home's reasonably clean, the seller's actually moved out, things like that. What I've discovered, Mr. Buyer, is that on closing day, once the seller gets their money, once the listing agent gets paid, I'm the only person that will pick up the phone and fix an issue. So I want to really proactively manage that and make sure if there's any issues, we know about those before the closing date. If there's a problem at the walkthrough, I will just pump the brakes and tell the listing agent we're not going to close until the issue has been fixed. You have all the leverage because you're at the closing table. Is that something you're okay with doing? Just ask them that. Is that something you're okay with doing? What am I doing by doing that? I'm getting you to say yes to me, right? Of course you're going to do that. Like I want to get you in the pattern of saying yes. That when I go to sign you, it's another yes, right? That brings me to signing the loan documents. You're going to sign the loan documents a day or two before the closing date. You don't own the home when you sign those documents, just the final step in the process. It takes about half an hour, and you'll do that with the escrow company. And then you actually get your keys on closing day, typically between 4 and 6 p.m. You'll get notified that everything's been recorded. You legally own the home. We'll meet you out there that same evening with keys. Don't plan to move in on closing day. Give yourself a few days to get the room. So I've like totally framed expectations at this point, guys. Like this is a lot of information, but I will ask them if it's helpful to see how all the pieces fit together. They always say yes. Even that guy that's bought 7 houses and thinks he knows how to buy a house, he forgot what earnest money is. He doesn't know what his options are in inspections. You got to make sure you set the expectations, okay? This is going to result in a much better experience, not only for the buyer, but for you as the agent as well. You're going to have less of those calls at 9 p.m. where the buyer's freaking out about something. Anything about that deal you want to cover before I move on? I know there's a lot of info there. You're good? All right.
Yeah, I'm saying keep going because I know we're going to run out of time and I want to try to get to these people's questions. So
Okay.
they're going to have a million questions. I'm going to have a million questions. We're not going to get through anything if we start asking questions.
All right, fair enough. All right, then I talk about agency roles. So, Mr. Buyer, there's a buyer agent and a listing agent involved in every single real estate transaction. The buyer or the listing agent represents the seller in all negotiations. They market the property, they get it online. Oftentimes, they'll be the person holding open houses, things like that. For new construction, they're usually the builder's representative that's sitting there at the plat and letting buyers come through. The buyer agent's job is to represent the buyer in all negotiations and help the buyer get through all the steps I just went over with you. So on our team, we don't practice what's called dual agency, and we don't do this, guys. Like I don't believe it's in the best interest of the client to represent both buyer and seller at the same time. It's not what I would want if I was a buyer. So on our team, we have a practice that we just simply don't do it. And I tell people that. I just say, hey, we're not going to represent you and the seller at the same time. If it's one of my listings, I have to hand you off to another agent on my team for putting that offer in, just to make sure there's no conflict of interest and they get representation that's just looking out for you. And then I tell them, I say, please don't reach out to the listing agent direct. Go through me for any questions you have, and I will get answers to those questions. Talking to a listing agent is kind of like talking to a prosecutor when you need a defense attorney. Anything you tell them, they're going to use against us in negotiating. So go through me for everything. I'm your defense attorney. Okay? This is where we talk about closing costs, Dale. So first of all, we got seller paid closing costs and we got buyer paid closing costs. And this is probably different in every state. This is just for Washington. In Washington, the seller pays excise tax, which is like a sales tax in real estate. It's about 1.5%. Not fun. The second thing, typically, the seller is going to pay most of the real estate commissions. So in the event that the seller is not paying the buyer commissions, we will find a way to build that into your offer. That's how I talk about it, Dale. And that's what we've done. Like when there's zero compensation, we build it into the negotiating part of the offer.
Okay. And I know that this is going to be relatively new going forward. If I'm sitting in front of you and you say, if the seller doesn't pay the real estate commission, we build it into your offer. At any point, are you planning, again, everybody, this is Mike. We are not legal advisors. We are not your NAR advisors. We are not your state or city or county advisors. I'm just talking to Mike about his business practice. Going forward, Mike, are you going to be saying to the buyer, here's how much we charge? If we can get all of that covered by the seller, if we can roll it in a cost, if we can build it in, it will be covered entirely by them. If not, the expectation is that at settlement, you'll be paying X. Or is there some kind of conversation around that?
Yeah, when we signed the agency agreement, I kind of walked them through the agreement. Now on there, it says 3% plus the $4.95 professional services fee that we charge. And I just tell them, the seller will pay that in most cases. In the event that they won't, we will try to build that into their offer. And if they don't pay it for some reason, then you're ultimately going to be the one that has to pay it. You just have to be super direct about it because they all know, like, you got to get paid, right? Right. These conversations, they're happening in real time right now. I don't know if you know this, Dale, or not, but in our market, the MLS, the NWMLS, we're the only market in the country that for the last 3 years has been able to offer zero buyer agent commission. And it has happened a few times, but more often than not, sellers don't do it because their houses don't sell. Like we've had that option for 3 years, and sellers have opted most of the time to simply not go that route. Like they know that if there's 3 homes a buyer likes and the buyer has to pay the commissions, that buyer's probably not gonna be that interested in that house. Like it's just immediately going to be something that pushes that house aside to focus on the other 2 homes. And as inventory levels start to go up, it becomes more of a problem for sellers. You know, sellers have really called the shots over the last 4 or 5 years because of really low inventory. But as inventory goes up, that changes that dynamic massively.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Also, I just want to say this real quick. In PA, our buyer broker relationship agreement has always said, here's what I charge. If I cannot, I will attempt to collect that from the seller. If not, this is what you'll be expected to pay, and this is what you're agreeing to. So I want to tell everybody listening to this right now, if you have a buyer broker relationship agreement in your state, in your area, go and read the damn thing, because it probably says what you charge in order to represent a buyer. It's just you never actually put that in front of somebody or ever explained it to them. Mike, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, great point. I mean, you need to understand that agreement inside and out, and you need to be able to explain it. Like, don't just expect to hand somebody a contract and say, "Hey, you sign here." Walk people through the agreement. This is how much I'm charging. This is how long the agreement's for. This is what I'm going to do for you. This is an exclusive agreement which allows me to be your agent during this period of time. You can't go work with other people. You got to be very direct and upfront about this stuff. I'll also talk about the insurance policy, the title insurance policy that the seller has to pay in Washington State, and how that will protect the buyer. I'll talk about how the seller is going to pay a prorated share of dues and taxes up when they sold the home as well, and then half the escrow fee. On the buyer side, I will typically frame it and just say, hey, typically the buyer's closing costs are 1.5 to 2%, and most of those fees are lender fees, things like loan origination fees, prepaid taxes, prepaid insurance, appraisal fees, things like that. We charge a $495 professional services fee. That will just be charged to you at closing. When you actually close on the home, you'll see it on your settlement statement. That covers things like our insurance and compliance. Like we've charged this fee for 1.5 years now, guys, and everyone like freaks out about it. The agents do. I've not had one client push back on doing this. So if you want to do it, you can definitely do it. And a lot of big teams are doing this across the entire country. This has been shared in multiple masterminds that we're part of. It was something that I got stuck on for years and didn't implement until about 1.5 years ago. And it's definitely been a great revenue addition for us because running a team's expensive. Like you got a lot of salaries and stuff. You need every dollar you can get. The recording fee, half the escrow fees, the lender's title insurance policy, and then prorated dues on the buyer side. So again, typically 1.5 to 2%, and that's in addition to your down payment, Mr. Buyer. So this kind of like gives them a framework of what to expect, because most buyers have heard of closing costs, but they don't actually understand at a granular level, what does it actually mean? Okay. And so this gives them a much better understanding of it. Again, if you don't frame this, you're going to have buyers say really strange things to you. Like, I want the seller to pay the closing costs. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean they're paying their closing costs, your closing costs? Usually the buyer means that they're paying your fee. So just what I've seen. We don't have time to go through this, but these are the offer variables that I share with our buyer clients. These are all different strategies and tactics that we implement to make sure that our offers stand out above the competition. These are very common things at this point. Like, you should be doing all of these things, but you just want to make sure you framed for your buyer what will make their offer come across as strong, or what will make it come across as weak in the eyes of a seller. Very important to do that, okay? Then I move right into closing this person, and I promised you I'd share this with you today on the webinar. So after I've gone through this whole process, I get to this slide, I just say, okay, Dale, the next step is to decide to work together. Would you like me to be your real estate agent, find you a home, and represent you? Just sit there, just stare at them. They will fill the space. Agents get super nervous when it comes time to sign documents. Don't just start talking because you're nervous. Just shut up. Stare at them. They're going to sign it. They're going to say, of course I want you to be my agent. Duh, you just brought me a ton of value. You've called me 17 times to get me to this appointment, and we just spent the last half an hour together, and I know, like, and trust you. Of course I want you to represent me. Then sign them. Then to get pre-approved by the lender, I'll get you connected with a local mortgage lender that can help you with your mortgage needs, and then go tour houses. I'll get you set up in our app and make sure that you've got all the houses sent to you this afternoon that match what you're looking for. And we can go look at those right away and then go find your dream house. So this closing page is like super important, guys. Like, just ask them, do you want me to be your agent? Don't overcomplicate it. Like, there's no like hard sell close here. There's no like magic script. Just, would you like me to be your agent? Yes or no? Just works.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. We got 6 minutes to talk about whatever else, or the if we can slide it in, showing assistant, that would be amazing.
I'm gonna like just hammer you guys with showing partner stuff real fast. It's gonna be like a fire hose. But this is really important to you. Like if you want to scale your buyer business, ultimately you're going to need to think about adding a showing partner. And showing partners are not new to our industry, but the way that we do it has really kind of evolved over the last 6, 7 years. I want to share that framework with you. Our showing partners are salaried W-2 employees. In our market, they make a $40,000 base salary, plus they make 5% of the homes that they show that the client actually bought. And so if you think about that, what does that do? That encourages my showing partner to work harder than me. Because if I show the house, they're not getting the commission. They want that commission, right? This really opens up people to get into our industry that otherwise would not become agents, right? This becomes a natural and organic way to grow your team as well, your bench of agents. Usually showing partners become agents after 2 to 3 years of being a partner. And usually after that 2 or 3 years, they've got an incredible foundation of skills because they've been partnered with a top agent. So we've got 4 agents on our team that have all had showing partners. I've had as many as 3 at one time when I was doing 40 million a year in buyer business. It's a beautiful thing when it works out really well. There's 3 big things the showing partner is going to do for you. The first one is the leverage for the agent. That means setting up showings, going on those showings for you. For me, the showing partner drives all of the communication once I've signed this person. Like once I've signed them, there's now a handoff to the partner. They know who this is, and my partner's calling them twice a week, sending them listings every single day, and encouraging them to go out and look at houses. What I know to be true, guys, this sounds really basic, but it's super important. If people don't look at homes online, they won't go set up tours with you. If they don't go tour houses, they won't put offers in on homes. So you got to encourage them to get out there, and you got to stay super interactive with them throughout the week. I call it the Friday Blitzkrieg. On every Friday, we pull up every single buyer we got, and we send them all a list of homes that came on the market that week. And we try to push you all out to go look at the houses with my showing partner on Saturday and Sunday. Okay. They will also do things like set up the inspections and coordinate all of that, key handoffs, walkthroughs. They do all of those things. The second thing is database management. So they act as me in the CRM. They do like text responses. They make sure that we've got really great customer service, that if I'm in meetings for 6 hours, one of my clients is still going to get a response right away. They respond as if it's me. Like I know it went out, they can see it went out, and the client gets really well taken care of as that. That's not to say they're an ISA. Like a great showing partner naturally is not a great ISA. I just have to tell you that. Like a showing partner is really a service-minded person. They're not going to be like a high DC, which makes your best ISAs. They're not going to be great hunters. They're really more service-minded if they're a truly great partner. And then the last thing is training. We really believe in training our showing partners at a very high level. We do 3 one-hour training blocks per week on our team for our partners and for our new agents. And so they're constantly learning and they're constantly enhancing their skills. If you want this person to be leveraged for you, they need to be exceptionally good at what they do, and they need to have a very, very high skill set. Otherwise, they're really just your assistant. And there's a big difference between an assistant and a qualified showing partner. This is the delegation of responsibilities. So if I'm an agent, my job is to go hunt. It's to go set appointments. If I don't have an ISA, that is 100% on me. It's to throw my whole sphere and past clients into this mix, make sure we're staying in touch with them. I'm going to do the consultation as well. Like my showing partner is now trained to do consultations, and she can sign buyers if I travel, which is awesome because our pipeline keeps going even if I'm here or not here. But to start with, the first year, typically, they're not doing any of that. That's all the agents. They will then sign the agent will sign the client, like I just went over with you. They will then jump back in and negotiate the offer. Like I'm coming back into the picture when my showing partner finds them a home they want to offer on. I'm jumping on the phone with them. They're hearing directly from me on what they should offer, the way that I kind of outlined it to you before. Think of like the doctor-nurse relationship when it's time for the offer. And this is like surgery, like we're going to work and they need to know that you got their back at that critical time. Okay. And then coaching the client, talking the client off the ledge. Like clients are going to freak out about things. The agent's going to have a much deeper skill set to bring that client back to reality and bring perspective to things like inspection issues, appraisal issues, things like that. Okay. The partner sets up showings, like I said, twice a week minimum, reach outs on phone and text. They set up all the home tours, the inspection setup and all of that, the walkthrough, the keys, and the review. The review is just getting them to review us on Zillow and Google. So I track my data super closely. I will tell you in 2021, we showed 11.7 homes per pending. That's a lot of houses to show. Like that was a time when we had to put in 2 or 3 offers to win a house. So maybe not totally accurate to today. Maybe it's more like 5 or 6 now. But that was just a very time consuming part of the process. If you do the things on the left side here, where you focus on setting the appointment, doing the consultation, signing the client, coaching the client, and doing the offer, you can get your time down to 3 to 4 hours per closing. Go run the math on that, guys. It makes a ton of sense. This is a way better way to scale your business than to just start adding buyer agents to your team. Keep control of the journey. Step in at these critical points, but leverage a showing partner. Are we okay on time, Dale?
Yeah, we're doing good. We got 1 more minute. How do you go for this and then tell us how you find your showing partners?
I'll send you these slides because a lot of information. This is just the partner ideal weekly schedule. Like, what do they do? When do they do it? This is our home show note. We live and die by our CRM. We have a saying that's not in CRM, it didn't exist. And at the end of every showing, the partner puts this note in to follow up boss. They tag me on it, so I'm constantly in the loop on what's going on. And if they want to offer on it, they call me right away. So again, we just want consistent process. And so we have a standard operating procedure for that. All right. You were going to ask me a question about something, Dale. What was it?
I love it. I said, how do you find your showing assistants?
Oh, showing partner.
Partners.
I mean, most of ours have come from our sphere, to be totally honest with you. Past clients, ironically enough.
They want to get into real estate.
Yeah. And then, like, there's always agents that want to get on our team that they can't swing it financially. You know what I mean? They're like, man, I'm like a teacher, or like I'm on a salary and I can't just go straight commission, and not get paid for 6 months. And that's the kind of person that can make a really good showing partner potentially. Not every partner graduates. Like, we've had some that just stay in that role for an extended period of time. And either way is totally cool with me. But it can be a way to organically grow your bench. Like, one of our team's top agents was my wife's partner for 3 years. And her first year as an agent on her own, she sold 27 houses. Like, so their skill set gets real deep. And if they end up becoming an agent on your team, they're probably going to go a lot further than just a brand new agent.
That's excellent, man. All right, great. We got some questions here. Everybody's loving the content, man. Fantastic comments. Everybody, of course, wants the slides, the recordings, all that stuff. I made a joke and posted in the chat that you have to sub to our Smart Sales Coaching YouTube channel in order to get the replay. Just a shameless plug to grow our subs. But let me go through these questions here. If you guys have questions, drop them into the Q&A, and we're going to try to get as many of these as we can in the next 9 minutes. So Anonymous wrote, when do you go over the purchase contract and cover the contingencies and other details of the contract specifically?
Great question. When we find the home they want to offer on, the offer terms and the offer guidance I give people is totally house to house specific. And so some things may not be relevant to one house that are to another. So once we find the home they like, that's when I jump back in. I hop on a call with the client. I talk about, hey, these are the things I think you should do to make your offer really stand out. This is kind of where we're positioned at in the market on price. And I just kind of walk them through all of that at that point.
Okay. Are you adapting your buyer guide to accommodate the NAR settlement, talking about it, or bringing it up? I think you answered that question, but go ahead and answer that again.
I will probably make a couple of verbiage changes in there, just to make it clear that if the seller doesn't pay it, the buyer pays it. Like I said, our market has allowed that for 3 years. I've represented a ton of buyers in the last 3 years, and I still haven't had to have a buyer pay any of my commissions. Like, it's just been something we've built into offers. I even push commissions up on a lot of our offers. Even in multiple offer situations where the SOC is 2.5% and we charge 3%, I've used escalation increments of 1%, meaning like, okay, they're going to make 0.5% more than the next highest offer for the best offer, but they're going to pay us the extra 0.5% as well. So it's kind of like a win-win, but you have to explain it to your client as well. There's a lot of things you can do to build your compensation into your offer if you're very strategic about it. And also if you coach the other agent to what you're doing. A lot of the stuff that we've done with other agents, they've never seen before. And so we just are very transparent with them about what we're doing and why we're doing it. That way they can explain to their clients. If they don't understand it, they can't explain it.
No. Yeah. There's I think we all can agree that there's a lot of deer in headlights out there when you approach, in some cases, listing agents on the other side. So yeah, that happens. Do you have a script plan for when you can't show a house without a written agreement per NAR deal?
I don't show houses without an agreement. So
okay.
we just don't do it. We haven't done it for years. We want you in our office during a consultation, or at least at the Starbucks during a consultation. Like, if people are really resistant to that, there's some red flags that you got to flush out. Like, start with your office, and then work your way back to the Starbucks that's closest to that home, and insist on the consultation and be very articulate about the value of what they're going to get out of that consultation, and then go do that consultation, then go show them the house. Like, you gotta get process driven on this. Just don't just go open the house door just because they want you to do that. You got to remember, guys, like, buyers don't know what the process is to buy a home. We are the professionals. And so it's our job to tell a buyer, this is the proven journey to buy a home. This is the proven process we've used hundreds of times, a couple thousand times now, to help other buyers just like you successfully buy a home. I'm not going to just have you tell me how we're going to do it. I'm going to be the professional. I'm going to step up. I'm going to articulate it for you.
Mike, in the state of Washington, are your showing assist partners required to be licensed? And are your, well,
100%. Yep.
okay, so yours are licensed then because they're
Yeah,
required to be.
they can't open doors without an e-key, so they have to be licensed. Yep.
Okay, got it. So there's the answer for that one. Yes, he runs licensed showing partners, and in his state, that's a requirement. And in some states, even having an ISA has to be licensed. Any
Yep.
other questions? Let me see. If you have a buyer that doesn't want to sign, what do you do with them?
I don't work with them. Like I've signed north of 90% of the buyers I've met in my office. If people are resistant to sign, and they say, well, I don't really want to sign this. I mean, I'm not going to say, okay, well, screw you, get out of my office. I'm going to try to understand why. Like, okay, you seem really apprehensive about signing this agreement. Tell me what makes you nervous about committing to one agent to help you get through this journey. Right. And just try to like hear them out. Like there's probably some underlying fear they have that you haven't addressed, but you got to ask them.
Now, Mike, if I said something like, well, listen, man, I just met you. You seem like a nice guy, but I don't want to get stuck with you. Right.
Yep.
Can I cancel this contract if we don't work out?
Yep. And I love that. And I will tell them yes, but I frame it this way. I say, Dale, you know what? This has to be a win-win. So if at any point I don't feel like I'm the right agent to represent you, or you don't feel like I'm the right agent for you, either one of us can cancel this agreement and rip it up. So I tell them that I've got control too. It's not just you, it's me as well.
Okay.
And I would never like, if somebody didn't want to work with me, I'm not going to be like, well, you signed an agreement, I'm going to sue you for this commission. Like, that's not the way we do business, guys. Like, this is just a progression of the relationship and getting a further commitment to work with this person. If they don't want to work with you, you can't make them work with you. Like, you could go sue them, but that's not what you want to be known for in business,
I'm sure that your agreement has some sort of written termination in there. Most professional agreements they need to have what happens if this doesn't work out, or what are the terms under which it can be terminated. So presumably your BA has a termination clause in it.
Yeah, or MLS, like it's just the boilerplate MLS one, written notice from either party cancels it.
Got it. Okay.
I think I've canceled 5 in the last 7 years, and I've had 2 cancel. And the 2 that canceled, like they were a huge pain in the ass. And when they said they wanted to cancel, I high-fived my showing partner. We moved on. Like we knew that we had done everything we could to help this person. They were unhelpable.
There are some people we just don't want to do business with, and they teach us.
Right. Like on our team, years ago, we defined who was our ideal client, and we were like really focused on finding that person. And we're also really focused on listening for what people say to show us they're not that person. That we're just not going to spend any time with those people.
Yeah, absolutely. So Adam Franzetti, the one who asked, what if the buyer doesn't want to sign? He asked further, do you drop them from your CRM or just keep dripping on them? Say you meet with them, they don't want to sign with you. Do you kick them out of the CRM, or do you just keep them in there?
I never delete anyone out of my CRM. And even somebody like that, I would probably lob it back to my ISA and I'd tell them to call them once a month and just check in on them. And I keep sending them listings too. Like, okay, maybe you weren't ready, and maybe this just wasn't the right fit or whatever else. But I'm still going to bring you value. Like even people that have agents, I still tell them, hey, use our website. Obviously your agent's not sending you listings. We'll keep sending them to you. It's totally fine. Go use that agent if you want to. If that doesn't work out, call me.
Some agents get really mad when a consumer with an agent comes and uses their website. They get really upset about it.
I think it's great. Come use it all day long.
Right. That's funny. All right. So any more questions? Let's see if answer your question or ask your question now or forever hold your peace. Mike is a busy guy. He's got to go out there and sell lots more buyers and get some more money, sell some more houses, help some more families. That's what I should have said. He's got to help some more families out there get into their next dream home. All right. So I think we're good. Mike, thank you so much for joining us, man. Where can people get in touch with you if they want to pepper you with more questions?
Instagram or Facebook is the easiest way to get my attention. Like just send me a direct message and I check it, once or twice a day. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But I will send Dale the slides and he can share it with you guys.
Excellent. That sounds great. Emily, drop Mike's contact in the chat here. What's going on here? Oh, somebody must have had an AI thing in here. I hate those things. Yeah, everybody's saying thank you. Everybody loved it. Yeah, drop Mike's Instagram here. There we go. So there's his Instagram. Very cool. Excellent. All right. Thank you so much, Mike. Everybody loved it. Thanks for coming on. Let me know when I can come do a training for your organization.
You bet, man. Good to be with you guys today. Take care.
All right. See ya.